there, welcome to the inaugural episode of Real Moms of Real Estate. I'm Sarah Close. I've been a practicing real estate agent for over 30 years and actually a mom for 21 of those years. So my kids are now in college and they're essentially, at least relatively speaking, alleged to be somewhat more self-sufficient. But I can say that growing up, they spent more time in more houses than there will ever be episodes of HGTV, and albeit from the purview of a pumpkin seed on a kitchen counter. And I pretty much know with every one of those showings, having the anxiety with my clients of, oh my God, if I bring my kid around, will they find me unprofessional? Or I can't find a sitter, but I promised these people an open house. Do I bring them and bring the iPad, or do I cancel? Or am I a bad mom because I'm talking on the phone while I'm trying to feed my daughter? And am I going to be putting some therapist kid through college? And so on with, kind of what that was like having kids in real estate. And we all know that this business can be super lonely at times, and it can also kind of challenge your confidence. But, you add in the variable of trying to parent and do it well, and it can feel pretty overwhelming, which is kind of why we've gathered here today with this group of real moms in real estate for a little bit of support and encouragement, and to make sure that you know you are not alone in your neurosis. So with that, I want to introduce all of our real moms. Kate, I'll let you start us off.
Hi, I'm Kate. I've been in real estate for 5 years, and I have 2 kids. One's 4 years old. His name is Wade, and I have a son named Ellis that's 9 months old.
Hi, I'm Katie Slonim. I have been in real estate for almost 9 years. I have 3 kids, Jackson, Cameron, and Benson, who are 6'4" and 1.5.
Hello, I am Kylie Royer. I have been in real estate this is my 3rd year, so 2 full years now. I have a stepson who is 7 years old, and his name is Jameson, and I just had my daughter Gianna about a year ago.
My name is Lucy. I've been an agent since, I think, 2015. I have a son who is just over 11 months old. His name is Mac, and I'm pregnant with another baby, soon to be coming in October.
Another one on the way.
Yeah, 2 under 2.
Well, that's actually a perfect segue. So, before you actually are a mom, you know you're going to be one. So talk a little bit about that. What was that like? How did that feel for you guys? So you're contemplating this baby arrival and a buyer brokerage agreement. So what does that look like?
For me, it was just, if anything, it was more prep time that I needed to prepare for. I didn't know what motherhood was going to look like for me in time, and just in the space of time. And so for me, that was the biggest kind of hurdle I had to overcome mentally when finding out that I was pregnant, that everything was going to shift in my day-to-day life and my day-to-day dynamic.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. I think the hardest and scariest part about being pregnant and also being in real estate already is just not knowing, especially for the first-time moms. You really don't know first of all, how are you going to respond to becoming a mother and all of that? And then on the other side of that, what about your business? Because obviously we can't just worry about ourselves when we are moms and we are real estate agents.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think for me, I think I was 2 years into starting my real estate career when I found out as expecting, which was shocking in and of itself. So I think it was, not knowing what to expect with the business. I kind of felt like I was still ramping up. It was, learning a lot all at one time, and just how am I going to manage all of this while continuing to build my business.
Yeah.
Very, very similar story for me. I was less than a year in the business. Had just bought my first investment property, and my husband started a new job that was very much 9 to 5 tied to a desk, and we found out we were pregnant unexpectedly. So we had a lot to think about and wrap our heads around from the time we found out we were pregnant all the way through 8 months pregnant, GCing, and the tail end of a renovation project. So definitely shocking, to say the least.
And then even though you're pregnant for 9, 10 months, those 9, 10 months go by so quickly that unfortunately there's really no amount of prep that can kind of prepare you for this little baby potato. And
when you're in the 9 months, it feels like every day is 20 years. But then when it's oh crap, I'm about to have this baby, it seems like it goes real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little shocking.
It is a little bit of shocking. Yeah, that's exactly right. So you were saying, Kate, did you guys plan? You said you were unplanned. So, I mean, unplanned, what is a relative term?
For that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it happened sooner than we expected, and we just had so many things stacked on top of each other. And I was already in this kind of educational crash course because I was new to real estate, kind of in a very focused subset of real estate, which is investment real estate. So just like such a sponge, taking in so much information, and then my body was sort of hijacked, and I'm learning what it is to be pregnant, what that is going to look like for the next 9 months, and then how do I start planning for the future, because there's this like impending, not doom, but date of this is the time where I have to kind of have my shit together.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No,
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and very similar to Kate, unplanned, much sooner than we had expected. You see all those like cute like announcements where they, tell their husband. No, I was like sheer panic. I was like, came down the stairs like crying, laughing, like I don't
Just overwhelmed.
overwhelmed. Yes. So yeah, not planned. I would have loved to have had my business a little further along than it was at the time, but yeah, and kind of similar. Like my husband was kind of transitioning out of his more stable career, so there, we had that transition going
Little
on
extra
as well.
funness.
Yeah, exactly. So.
That's very funny.
All the good stuff. So when I got into real estate, obviously my stepson, he's 7, was already around. And I think I let that kind of sway me a little bit as far as I was like, oh, I've got this. I've had a kid part of the time for this whole time I've been in real estate. This can't be that bad. But when our little surprise came around, I was very shocked. It's certainly different, especially when they're that little. And she also was not, I don't want to say unplanned, but we thought because of a lot of factors, it was going to take us much longer to conceive than it did. So when we found out we were pregnant after just 1 month of being married, we were very surprised.
That's very funny. That's very funny. How were your co-parents in this? Like, what was their approach? Because obviously their significant other is in a completely self-driven business where, you eat what you kill. And obviously that's all contributing to a joint household. How did that bird land?
For us, my husband's work is pretty flexible. He has a traditional 9 to 5, but he does work from home, and he can kind of schedule meetings and be a little bit more flexible. He's not so like clock in at 9, can't talk to me until 5, which is really helpful. But for us, the biggest conversation with real estate and me becoming a mom was just time. Nights and weekends are really valuable to us, especially since he's not even 1 year old. It's, he goes to bed at 7:30. So
4 in the afternoon.
and he goes to daycare every single day of the week. So for us, it was trying to make sure that we did hash out these like actual good family times, because that was my biggest concern as becoming a mom, is like, I'm never going to see him. Like, I'm going to drop him off at daycare in the morning and then I won't get home until after he's asleep. But for us, we've kind of been fortunate, at least thus far, knock on wood, that it's been every now and then a few nights, but not a ton.
Yeah.
It's been really thankful for us.
That's really good. How did you guys feel when you were pregnant and working? Like, how did everybody feel?
Like physically?
Yeah.
I have great pregnancies. I'm super lucky. I think
that's awesome.
in the
Rude.
That's so rude.
beginning, super tired. Like I was almost relieved when I found out I was pregnant because I was like, I am unwell.
Yeah.
But that passed really quickly, and then I have really good pregnancies. So I just literally kept moving until I went into labor, like straight through. Mm-hmm. So active, pretty much my normal life.
Right.
Up until
The day.
the day.
Yeah.
The doom day.
Yeah.
That can't go in. Can't call our due dates the doom days.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Okay.
But very similar experience too. But yeah, I felt great during my pregnancy. I mean, everyone might hate me for this, but I no morning sickness. Just kind of kept going.
Oh, yeah, you're
about
to
my
be hated.
boys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Say that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, same thing. Just kind of kept on my feet, showing houses. Doing my thing like all the way through. So it was.
Sounds like Kylie and I were the only ones plagued with
We'll
morning
be
sickness.
the other ones that
Yeah.
speak to the not so beautiful pregnancies.
Yeah. I feel great. First trimester for me is always the worst. I am nauseous all day, physically getting sick all day.
Awesome.
It feels like, and I try to describe it to Cody, my husband, he's like, tell me like what it feels like. I'm like, I feel like I went out on a bender last night and I was just absolutely, and I wake up the next morning and I feel the most hungover, but it's all day long. So for the first trimester with Mac, my son, I was not productive. Like there were some days I like couldn't even get out of bed. But there were multiple showings that I went to that I was like, I'm going to excuse myself to check the backyard out really quickly. You go and you get sick, and you come back inside, drink a water, and bring some gum. Yeah, you just kind of power through. But after that first trimester, then I feel great other than that. But just those first 3 months
Just the
are
first
really,
third.
Yeah, just the first 3 months are really fun.
First third.
So.
Yeah. No, that's rough. And you said yours was not the most awesome time ever.
I hated being pregnant. I'll be the person that says it. It was not fun for me. I was sick the whole time, and I'm only 5'1", so I swelled up like a little tiny balloon. My face looked like a different person. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel pretty. I didn't love it.
That's very funny. That is very funny. I do remember being in my car, and this was back in the day when you would put a client in the car with you to go show a house. And I had this guy coming in from overseas, and I was pregnant with my second daughter. And I remember getting in the car, like heaving myself into the car, and the steering wheel was like way back here because Cece was like the biggest baby of all time, and she's like brushing the steering wheel as I'm driving. And his name's Andrew, and he's an engineer. He looks over and he's like, are we okay? I'm like, we're almost to the next house. It'll be okay. I was like, oh my God.
We are just fine.
Yeah, we are just fine. Yeah, it was pretty rough. So did you guys change anything about the way that you did your business while you were pregnant? Or what do you remember about being different then, if anything?
So something that stands out to me is I do a lot of like apartment building sales. So when I go to an appointment, it's not always one person that I'm meeting. I could go into like 6 different apartments. So that was something that I kind of had to pivot. I don't know if you guys had this like feeling of like I need to keep myself safer than usual.
Yeah.
But I started to feel a little bit uneasy essentially walking into a stranger's space over and over and over. So I would either take someone with me or have someone else on the team cover those initial appointments. Just because I felt different within the space, kind of exposed in a way that maybe I didn't before.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a shift that I remember.
No, that makes total sense.
I think for me, it was more future pacing my client, just because way the inventory was when I was pregnant, especially the latter end of the pregnancy. Inventory was extremely tight. I could have gone into labor at any time. I always try to future pace my clients, like if I have vacations or something coming up, just to say, hey, I have a coworker who may be reaching out to you, but then I would just say, listen, like, that I'm pregnant. You can clearly see it. Trying to future pace them for that. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I just made a lot of just your brain gets a little haywire sometimes. Yeah, I did remember I scheduled a showing one day for like a Thursday. And I was like, oh, it's confirmed. We'll go right there. But it was for a Tuesday showing. Mm-hmm. So I walk in, I'm like knocking on the door, walk in the house, and the homeowner's there. And I'm like, I am so sorry. Mm-hmm. This has never happened to me. And I was like 39 weeks pregnant, and I called Sarah and Jamie, I think, and I was like, I think I just need to be done now. It's for everyone's safety involved.
My brain is no longer working.
Yeah.
My brain has
reached
left
capacity. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's a real thing.
I got super lucky. Well, call it lucky, I guess. My first real year of real estate was with my daughter, and that sweet angel has gone everywhere with me. And I'm really thankful to be in a business where I can kind of choose the people that I work with as far as hey, I will get you into the houses you need to see. We might have a tiny tag along with us, but if you're okay with that, then let's go. And if they're not okay with that, then that might not be a client that is one that you want to work with anyway. So I think at the end of the day, us having kids in our business, it doesn't necessarily have to be a stopper for us. Just bring them along and throw them in the car. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you guys have anything what were your clients' reactions? What kind of variety did you see from people?
Did any of you guys get the oh, I was gonna reach out, but I noticed you had just had your baby,
for sure,
from a client that you have maybe been prospecting for, years.
A year.
And then you see they just closed on a house and you're like, oh, congrats. What happened there?
I had a very similar experience, but someone who I think maybe Jackson was 3 or 4 months old, and I'd posted something on Instagram that was like my bags. It was like my pumping bag, like everything, the supplies I needed for the day. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize you were working. Like, we're actually looking to buy a house. So I think people just assumed that, and it wasn't until I actually like put it out there that, oh, I am still working. And, but yeah, so I did kind of have that experience too. But
I think that was my biggest, like, oh, dang it. Like, people just assume which I think is respectful. They're trying to give you your time, but obviously you're also at least hopeful they'll reach out and ask if you'd be willing to take it on.
Do you think that's something that you would message if you were having another baby? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just, we didn't have internet when I was based.
Right.
I'm just kidding. But, I
Like,
just wonder.
here's my hard time off, and anytime after this, you can reach out, or like,
I don't know. Just like future pacing it for like your, because it's not.
or here's who you reach out to
Yeah.
in my absence.
Yeah, I don't know. Just curious.
I've told my clients now that I'm working with that we are having another baby in October, and a lot of them are starting to look. We're future pacing for the fall for a purchase, so I've let them know. Yes, while we are having a baby in October, I luckily work on a team, so I have extra support. There will be somebody you can contact, and then I will still be able to be kept in contact via phone, but I probably won't be at the showings. Mm-hmm. But I unfortunately I haven't had a client that cheated on me, unfortunately. Just via pregnancy that way.
I had more of an issue beforehand than after. So leading up to my due date, I had a couple of clients that were starting to be like,
You gonna drop that thing here?
So I actually lost a listing. They had been kind of prepping their house for sale. I had been over there, done the walkthroughs, given them my personal contractors to like knock out those last minute projects. And then when it came down to it and it was time to list, I did like the whole, comps report. We went through what the pricing structure was going to be. And then they were kind of buttoning up. And within that week, it was like, I was due a week later. And so there was like an exchange that was awkward, and I kind of picked up on that, and then they just went silent. And so I was lining the stuff up for after baby with my team, like who's going to be taking on what clients and seeing listings through and things like that, like primary point of contact. And then I saw their house go live with another agent. Yeah. And so when I reached out, they basically said, we were just uncomfortable. We weren't sure you were going to be able to be kind of full capacity for the listing. And there was never a conversation had. It just, we lost the listing over it. So I thought that was really that
sucks.
That one wasn't cool. But, I guess if people aren't comfortable. And you have to think most people only buy or sell a house however many, you know what I mean? Like once or twice in their lifetime, and they're a nervous wreck. So, whatever you need. But, a conversation would have been nice.
Yeah.
Would you say something to them differently now? Like if you knew they were going to bail?
Yeah, I think I would have laid it out like this is your plan. If someone really needs to know, what's going to happen, the clients that need a little bit more hand-holding,
right?
Maybe you give them an exact plan. Like this is the first person you call if you don't get me. Here's the second person. These are the dates that things are going to happen for you and how they're going to happen without me in the mix.
Right.
They would have felt a little bit more comfortable, but I think they just were trusting that I was not going to lose my mind. I don't know. Yeah. I'm having a baby. I'm not getting a brain transplant.
Right.
So that was interesting and disappointing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Would have just rather had the conversation, and then you could have said, "Okay, I totally get it," or you could have resolved the problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, that makes a lot of sense. When you were thinking about when you were pregnant and everything, what good advice did you get from other working moms? Like what where you're like, oh, that was useful. That was good feedback.
You specifically told me when I was pregnant one time. I remember it was when we both had both sides of the office still. I was standing at Nancy's desk with you and Doug, and you looked at me and you were like, are you ready? And I was like, I'm terrified. And you were like, yep, and that doesn't go away, but just keep leaning into it. And I was like, okay. And after the baby got here, I kind of realized what you meant by that. You're going to have hurdles, but instead of looking at it as a hurdle, lean into it and figure it out. And my first year fully in real estate with my baby, my business doubled from my actual first year.
That's
of
awesome.
when I was pregnant. So like,
Right.
when you lean into it and you just stop looking at it as a negative, I was like, okay, like,
I got this.
we got this. Like my little unlicensed assistant, she comes with me. This is perfect.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was definitely some of my go-to. Just lean into it. Let it happen. Let it ride.
It's all good.
Wish I had gotten that advice from you, Sarah.
That's what I was just thinking.
Because I think I did, and I'd heard it from, like, I'd seen it from other agents who, and I remember someone saying to me, like, people are going to see you as less professional if your kids are around. So, and I think the way that I handled my pregnancies changed a lot from like 1 to 3. The way that I handled Benson is very different from Jackson, who was our first. So I think I kind of tried to like, and maybe that was just putting it on myself more so than like other people, but like, I'm just going to keep powering through. Like, this is just, you know,
Nothing to see here.
it's nothing, nothing to see here. Like, I think I had I had a listing and I didn't even tell the sellers that I was pregnant, and I just kept like going on, and it was fine, you know, but I mean, I'm sure.
Was that with Jackson or with Benson?
With Jackson.
Okay.
With Jackson. And so I did things very differently with Benson, but I just think I just put pressure on myself the first time to like, just keep
All
things
systems
rolling.
go.
It's fine. Like, show up to a
Just keep
closing.
swinging.
Yeah. Like, show up to a closing wearing a diaper, essentially, a week after having a baby, you know, like, I wouldn't put that on myself.
Yeah.
Now.
So talk to us about the difference between Jackson and Benson. Like, what headspace were you in? What did you do differently?
I think with Jackson, our first, I just felt like I couldn't miss a beat. Like, it's like so early on in my career, I can't miss a showing. I can't, you know, hand it off to someone else. I can't ask, it has to be me. That's how I felt. But with Benson, I very much so like honored that time with him and space a lot more than I did even with the other two. And Cameron.
I know Cameron's like
he's just, you know, the middle child.
The middle kid, yeah.
But yeah, like 2 weeks after having a baby, like carrying around a pumpkin seed to showings and, you know, not being physically, you know. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah, and I think with Benson, it's like, it's okay to like,
Right.
this time is so limited with them, and it's okay. Like, you know, your clients that trust you, have worked with you for a long time, like, they're happy for you. They want you to enjoy this experience, but also make sure that they're taken care of.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's just very different how they've, like, progressed.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. That's very
I've
cool.
like seen, and like the hipper kids call it like a flex, but like I've seen a thing recently it kind of resonated because I felt when I first had my daughter, it was like a flex or something to brag about that I was doing all these. I'm writing an offer in the delivery room. I'm going on showings and I'm literally still wearing diapers, like you said. And looking back, I'm like, that is a really toxic mindset to have when you're trying to enjoy your baby.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Already
glad
so
you
many
said
things
that.
going on, like hormonally,
Yeah, I was going to say.
physically. You are just, you know, I mean, for lack of a better word, just like torn apart. Like your body is just totally.
Way to sell
in,
it.
I know, doomsday. But it's just totally, you know, you're going from this fully pregnant person to then all of a sudden, in an instant, not pregnant, hormones going crazy. You're trying to manage your now new normal.
And responsible for a new life.
And then also responsible
detail.
for people making the biggest financial decision that some will make in their life. So there's a lot of emotional variations there. So it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, I was going to say, I must have been like riding that postpartum wave a little bit more than you guys, because I thought with my first pregnancy that I was going to be back a lot sooner. Like, people had given me the advice to take that time and, you know, at least 6 weeks or whatever. And I remember putting 4 on the calendar with our team. Like, let's just do that and I'll, you know, kind of like dip a toe in and see how I feel. I remember I started getting calls for work and I was just like, nope, like silence, because I just was nowhere near in the mindset, even for like the outside world. I also had a COVID era baby. So everything outside of like our bubble felt like actually crazy. So that was one piece of it, but I just wasn't ready. I was not ready to take on clients. I started passing business and to referrals and other people because I just couldn't take it on, and I did not expect to feel that way. I thought for sure I was going to.
Good for you for doing that for yourself, because looking back, I like wish I would have.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Like looking back on like having Jackson, I feel like I was so anxious and on edge all the time that I didn't because I was trying to maintain everything that I didn't really like truly enjoy that time with him. And I look back on it as like just a really stressful,
Yeah.
hard, just trying to balance a lot.
For sure. I think I took 8 weeks, give or take. Like I took 8 weeks and I was like, I'm going to take 8 weeks and be with them and just, try to figure it all out because you're just trying to figure out so many things. And I think I was in labor and I was texting Sarah and I'm like, I need you to call this client. You need to write up an offer because he's calling me and I'm physically pushing. So I need you to do that. And then you're a week, postpartum and then they're getting an update on inspection. So you try to stay out of this as much as possible, but something as little as negotiating an inspection repair request, it's like, you just feel overwhelmed. So I'm hoping with this next one, I can actually say like, no, I am going to be hands off and not pop in every 2 hours to actually
Like
check
a true
in.
maternity.
Like a true, I'm just going to take it maybe like one day a week I'll work, for the whole day or something, but at least kind of make more of a manageable set schedule for myself.
I had a really great transition plan with this last. So I have a 9-month-old, and I put a person, like you are my other half, sort of like a team. And I brought that person on like a month and a half beforehand to meet all of my clients, to know exactly what they were looking for, what stage they were in. And then she just was the point of contact until basically I said I was ready. And I was willing to give up a lot financially for that convenience because I'm not on a team. So I had to go seek that out. We don't have I don't have a backup plan through the team where where that's in place. So I was really intentional about setting that up this time around.
Were your clients really receptive towards that and they're...
As long as you introduce them with that structure and you're super communicative. I feel like that was the mistake the first time is I was just trying to put the face on that I had it all and then I felt nuts.
Yeah.
So it was so much smoother this time with a plan in place.
That was a good idea, especially a month ahead that they can meet them and it's not just
Right.
on a random Saturday. They're running out. It's a good idea.
No, that makes sense. So when did you guys all stop working before you had your baby?
I was literally writing an offer while I was in
The
the
day I
hospital.
had my baby.
So.
Never.
Hey.
Yeah. Up until,
Yeah. No, and then you went back with with your oldest. How quickly? When did you guys
I would
all go
say
back? 8 weeks?
6 weeks. I was back on the map and responding. I would say maybe not taking new clients, but servicing existing clients. I also had my biggest sale to date the week before my son was born. So that was my maternity. That was my maternity leave.
I'm good now.
Yeah. It was 44 units and it was a big paycheck. And I was like, we don't have anything to worry about. This is great.
Yeah.
So that gave me some peace of mind too. And I've seen other moms trying to beef up their business while they're pregnant, and it's exhausting. But if you give yourself a little nest egg, then you can kind of cruise on the back end, and that's really nice. So
If I were to get pregnant again, I think building that for myself while being pregnant is going to be a huge priority because you're already so stressed after the baby comes. You don't need a financial stressor on top of that. So I want to try to also do that. If.
Got to put that out there now. So.
be careful,
Yeah,
I'm going
absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, so you found a person to kind of transfer to college. What did all you guys do as far as what was your Batman Robin plan? How did you offload that, and what worked well, what didn't work well?
I mean, being part of our brokerage specifically, with Keller Williams, I feel like we do have a very good community, and it was kind of nice to be able to reach out. I was a newer agent at that point, so I was still in the coaching. So I was actually pretty close with all of the other younger agents in that, and I was able to kind of network with them and have them cover a lot of my stuff. Without being on a team, it is certainly kind of up in the air on who you're going to trust with your clients. So I think being part of a brokerage that has that community feels really, really helpful and important during pregnancy and after.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't really have a point person, which if I went back, I would do that Absolutely.
Hindsight's 20/20.
I know, right? So yeah, there was kind of, I thought that I could, if I didn't have to physically be there, I could still do all the other stuff. I'm talking a lot about Jackson, not so much the Benson and Cam, but yeah, I thought like, oh, I could still handle all the paperwork and I could write offers and someone could just like physically show the house. But even just finding the time and the space to quietly write an offer with a client it's a lot when you're like in the throes of
sure.
like,
Yeah, they say sleep when the baby sleeps. I was like frantically clearing my mailbox and like writing offers when the baby was sleeping.
Yes,
I remember that feeling like I've got an hour to like prioritize whatever mess this is in my inbox, and that being so stressful.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me was just like releasing the control of somebody else handling my business, which now I'm going to future pace and I'm going to find an agent. But I did have an agent on our team who was a newer agent, and she showed properties for me, and we just worked out like a financial compensation for that. But when it came terms to like them writing the offer for client, that was hard. I mean, they did it and it was fine, but it was a hard pill for me to swallow because I'm so particular and like protective, like mama bear over my clients, that was the hardest part for me, is that I was like, I'm going to hand you this client and just don't mess it up.
It is really
I mean,
hard.
you're really trusting somebody else that doesn't know your client as well as you do.
Yeah.
So I think future
I
facing
feel
is
like
a great
because
idea.
this business is so personal and your personality is kind of your brand, it is really hard to turn that over. Like I remember you saying like, they're expecting me. And I think we do have that feeling more than most. We're not like an IT. It's not like an ABC fixes it. So the way that you deliver the offer matters. The way that you connect with the other agent really matters. So what I did is I sought out someone who I felt like had a similar approach to the business, similar business model, someone that like their personality when we were at like Keller Williams functions, I liked the way they carried themselves and I liked the way they presented through social and everything else, the way that they do business. And I was like, I'm going to ask you, and I hope that you say yes.
We should be
I need
friends.
your help. Yeah, I need your
We
help.
should be friends.
So,
Now, did you guys find that after you had the baby, or even when you were pregnant, did you find a different client base did your business change at all? Like what you went after, or who you worked with, or anything like that?
I felt I was able to create more boundaries with my clients than I was prior to having a child. Before Mac, all I had to keep happy was Cody and the dog. Very simple to keep happy. Cody just go golfing and Boris likes the couch. So that was very simple. I could drop things at like a moment's notice and go run out and do a showing. But with having Mac now, I think it's been easier for me to create boundaries, and I'm sure my clients would have been receptive to boundaries prior, but I'm finding that they're actually, yeah, that's totally fine. We get it. We know you don't want to show a house on Sunday with an hour notice, So I think that's been really beneficial, positive.
Yeah,
anyways.
for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny because some people even like apologize for like contacting you in the evening. Like, I know this is family time. I'm so sorry. So I feel like they're just, people are more understanding of your personal time and boundaries.
And I'll still run out and show you the house within an hour,
Right.
but just,
It's okay. Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
But it is nice to create like a little bit more of a distance, so it's not so they're texting me at 11 p.m., kind of
Yeah.
thing.
That's never okay.
No.
really interesting. I would say my business is like 75% investment, 25% residential. And so for me, it's the opposite. I'm trying to mask that family stuff a little bit more because it's a lot of, like, it's definitely a male-dominated space. There are not very many women working in, like, commercial apartment building, sales. Sure. And so I don't want that to be, a stop to me getting business. A lot of my investor clients are out of state, and so I'm talking to them after their W-2, during those nighttime hours. So what we find works for us is just setting appointments, a day or two in advance, and my husband and I just like hot potato the kids. It's like, this is what's on my calendar, and I need to make it work, and I need you to take them for a walk or get them out of the house, or you need to let me walk down the street to the coffee shop so I can have this kind of discovery conversation or whatever it is. So that's been interesting. I don't want to shift. But sometimes I've been pulled more towards the residential stuff because it feels more family friendly. And there are so many more kind of female mom personalities in that space. But it kind of feels like I'm like selling out because I really enjoy the investment stuff. And we invest. And so it's hard. That's been an interesting pivot for me, trying to figure out where I fall.
Yeah. That makes sense. Have you changed anything, Katie,
Um,
in terms of your client base?
not. I think it's not a result of having kids. It's just my sphere has also like
By default.
grown by default has grown as
It's like
we've
your kids'
grown.
preschool friends and stuff.
Yeah,
that you're-
exactly. But now, like, a lot of the events that we do are geared more towards, families and where we can, like, my kids can come, and it's kind of this added layer of connection, which has been really fun. So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think the connection that comes with kids is definitely residential friendly for my business. I've actually met a lot of like my clients through my stepson in like school and stuff. So I can't even imagine once my younger one starts getting in there too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Is there anything like what happened that you didn't expect? You're like, oh, didn't see that coming. Anything that hits your radar when you think about after these little terrorists land on the planet? What was your biggest surprise?
I think my biggest surprise was the family dynamic as far as like, I get the hot potato definitely resonates because like with Jameson, he's older, he's pretty self-sufficient. If I need to make a phone call, I say I'm going downstairs. And now I feel like with my husband and I, it is definitely a game of like pass the baby, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and you have to do this, and I think that was one thing I didn't see coming. The block it puts like in your actual family too,
Sure.
outside of business.
Yeah. What about for you guys? Anything you're like, oh, who knew?
I think my sense of urgency has settled a little bit. Like before Mac, I was like, must go do this now, must do this now. Like it is urgent. In the grand scheme of things, not urgent. It felt very like hot potato, like I've got to do this now. Now I feel like I at least, I don't know if it's the maturity of it all or I've just kind of said, okay, it's not that urgent. I've been able to be like, okay, I can get that done tomorrow. Like that's not an urgent thing. When I'm out showing clients, I'm out showing clients. I'm not in another headspace. So I think that's been nice that I've been able to like separate and realize what's really important versus like they can sign the seller's disclosure later. It's going to be okay. Like that does not need to be done right this second at 5:30 p.m. at dinner. So that kind of thing I think has helped me a little bit in the headspace.
just much easier to prioritize.
Yes.
These three things must happen.
Yes.
Everything else is okay.
We
think
can work through it.
So much comes with experience. So like that's experience in real estate. I was less than a year in when I found out I was pregnant, and I felt like my hair was on fire all the time because every transaction was some new crazy thing I had never encountered. So, 5 years in now, I just feel more confident. I have a better feel for what's important and what's not. But that's the same for motherhood. Like the second baby is like, you're throwing them on the hip and cooking dinner, and it's not so like crazy on the brain. Just like, how do I do this? Everything I'm doing is something new. So for both, experience has made it exponentially easier as I move along through motherhood and through my business.
Yeah, that makes total sense. When did you guys think you started to get back to a predictable schedule?
Let me know when you get there.
I am still not there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make it work.
Yeah, some weeks I'm like, I have got this together. We are thriving.
Yes.
We are killing the game. And then the next hour happens and it's just
Strep throat,
everything's burning.
no childcare,
Yeah.
like canceling appointments.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always something. I feel like they bring something home from school every day. We're shifting our plan. It's like there's no predictability in these like younger years. So we just make it work.
I've actually took my daughter out of daycare and just kind of committed to having her with me because she was getting sick so often. I was like, okay, so either she's going to be home and sick and I can literally get nothing done and I'm paying for daycare, or I can just pull her out and at least she's healthy and I can entertain her, and that's fine. But that's been crazy too. Just like making that decision of like,
This isn't actually helping. It's
neither of these are great choices.
Yeah.
Which one do you do so you can get something done during the day?
Yeah, that makes total sense. When do you guys think that you've started to feel like, again, setting predictable aside, kind of like from a production standpoint, your business was sort of back on its more usual cadence?
I luckily had like a lot of newer clients towards the latter end of my pregnancy that kind of fell into my maternity leave, which was nice. So then I didn't go from like 0 to 60. But I would say probably 3 months after I was kind of, back into it. He's in daycare. I can really focus on this time. I would say that's kind of when I started to feel a little bit more like myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think mine came with, I didn't really have like a set childcare plan with our first Jackson. So I think it's like when I finally had that figured out, I would have planned that well in advance. But so maybe 6 months or so where like I had a schedule of like, okay, he's going to my mother-in-law's 3 days a week and here's what we're doing the other couple days or whatever it was. But yeah, once that was established, then I kind of felt like I could get more into a rhythm.
That's my exact answer. We didn't figure that out until 6 or 8 months. And once I had I know that Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have the entire day to either squeeze my appointments in or schedule, personal, whatever. That's my time. Once I had that, I could make it work so much better. And I wish I would have done it way sooner.
Yeah.
And this second time around, I did do it way sooner.
Yeah.
I had a plan in place for, when we were going to have care or help and when we wouldn't.
Oh, that's good. So that's kind of a good place for us to end. What would you guys leave someone with as far as advice? If someone is either, oh my God, we're pregnant, or this baby's coming tomorrow, or we just had and they're in our field. What would you want them to know to make it easier?
It's all doable. Any way you swing it. Like I'm in daycare 5 days a week. You bring the little one along with you. You just kind of have
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, you just have to figure out what works for you and your family. For me, I know that if I kept him home, I wouldn't be able to get anything done.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I have to separate myself from you. But I think just truly whatever works for your family.
Well, and it's okay to ebb and flow through that.
Yeah,
So if you start in childcare and it's making you feel like you're separated from your kid and you hate it, or if you need more, you can ramp it up. But not putting the pressure on yourself to get it right the first time and just being okay with figuring it out as you go. I put a lot of pressure on myself my first time around, and this time just knowing that we're going to make it work is so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you don't really truly know until you have a baby. You could go into it thinking okay, I've got my childcare in place, I'm going to keep rolling. And then you have your baby and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to be here a little bit
I don't want to
longer.
leave you. Yeah.
I don't want to leave you. And that's okay, because there are ways to, to get some leverage and to get some help. And that would be my advice. It's a really special time, and it's such a short period of time just to, enjoy it for, and whatever that means for you.
And I would also say accept all of the help that you're given.
Yes.
There is no shame in accepting any and all help. So welcome it.
Just remember that it is a season and it's going to pass, whether that is going to be sad or happy for you. So just get through it and do what you got to do.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for
Thank
spending time with us
We
today.
did it.
All right.